All right. What's going on, you guys? Let me know if you're here in the chat with us. It is Wednesday, December 17th. We are heading into the last 2 weeks of the year of 2025. And we've got a few earnings today to talk about. I think the big one is basically, I believe Micron will be reporting. Micron, tomorrow we got Fuel Cell, Nike, and FedEx. KB Homes. We talked a little bit about Lennar that reported yesterday. So with that being said, let's get into it. So today, I mean, guys, look at what I charted out for you just earlier in the week. I basically said it looks like if we break down below the support level that we were at, looks like we're gonna head down a bit further, down toward this. Was it 673 was what I had marked? It looks like we just dipped a little bit lower just earlier today. You know, pretty much if we can hold here, we could bounce back up a little bit, probably head back up toward 675, 676 or so. But I don't know. I want to say, in terms of my expectations, there's really not much on the table right now. We do have the president's supposed to be speaking tonight. He called the conference and said he's got some announcements to make. As of right now, there's a couple of geopolitical concerns, right? I think right now this, potential war with Venezuela. I mean, basically, it's a fight for oil. They've got a lot of oil that the U.S. wants, and I think around the corner, I think we very possibly will jump into that. A peek into that too is you can always use what's a good example? Take a look at defense contractors, okay? Or not RTX, where is it? I had it on here. Well, first off, you could say like, okay, Boeing's one of them. This one. Do we start to see these names go a little bit higher with the possibility of them getting more contracts and more money, right? Palantir technically is one as well. I expect Palantir to drop from where we're at. Looks like it pretty much did today. So again, take a look into RTX actually, yeah. So do we start to see these go higher? All right. If we do, there's always a possible hint that there is something about to happen when it comes down to those geopolitical issues. There was also something interesting that I saw of how basically, what was it? We're trying to put we kind of did put certain limitations on oil exports to China, and it looks like that oil embargo could be poking the bear a little bit. We'll see if that leads into anything else as well. But as of right now, I'm just gonna say there's not, aside from the Santa rally possibility, which I was talking to our Discord yesterday about, where it's funny, there was this statistic showing how the last 15 days of December we tend to see positive returns on the S&P 500. Stocks tend to go higher. Great graph to see, but then we see Jim Cramer retweet it, which made me automatically think, okay, well, it looks like we're probably going to go lower now. You always want to do the opposite of what Jim Cramer says, and oftentimes it's proven to be right, actually. If he says to buy, you probably want to sell. If he says to sell, you probably want to buy. And in this situation, he was saying you should probably buy stocks because they're supposed to go up through the end of the year. And so far, we've just seen red, all right? After the rate cut, which we saw highs over here, we've really just gone, we're down almost 3% from that. So rate cuts now off, been dealt with. the economic projections that we have are still basically waiting for more data for us to determine what's going to go on. Unemployment has hit recent highs, and that is, I think, right now the main concern of the FOMC and the Fed. They want to make sure that we deal with this, unemployment issue. People do not have to, a lot of people have lost jobs. A very interesting statistic, though, is that we have a record low of government jobs, meaning we've had a lot of losses in the job market due to government workers being fired and being laid off. However, the private sector seems to be adding jobs at this point. But net overall, we are down jobs for the last 2 months. So I don't know. I think it's very possible we start to see more and more of a pullback as we head into 2026. There will, and my prediction actually is that we might see something along the lines of, that we do end up announcing that we're going to war with Venezuela to basically go after oil. They're going to give excuses, talk about how it's, to prevent drug trafficking, whatever. But at the end of the day, there's oil that the U.S. wants in Venezuela. And that will probably cause a little bit of fear in the markets. And then, generally overall, war for the U.S. is actually something bullish because it stimulates the economy. More things need to be produced in order to go fight that war. On the other hand, too, the other risk that's on the table, I think part of it's already priced in, is this situation with the Japan carry trade. Japan is supposed to be raising their interest rates on Friday up to 75 basis points, which does lead to pressure upon the markets, pressure upon people that are in that trade to get out of their position to go pay back that interest. And ultimately, it will lead to a drop in multiple things, not only equities, but you can imagine Bitcoin is also seeing a little bit of that as well. My prediction for Bitcoin is this situation here where let's go back here. I took what ended up happening over here in 2021, where we had these highs made and then we came back down. From there, we went from 60K, 68K down to about 15. All right, so 75% drop from there. I took this, put a block here. I took this right here and I copied it over here in white. And this is just a potential projection as to what might happen. Because again, we had high, then higher, and then we're starting to see a little bit of a breakdown. And there is also this talk of how this Japan carry trade, every time Japan raises those interest rates, it creates about a 20% drop in Bitcoin. All right. The 20% down from where we're at would bring us right to this other level around 70K. Now, it doesn't have to happen right away. It could take some time. We could even see a little bit of a pump before that happens. But as of right now, I would lean more bearish on Bitcoin. And it does look like that 4-year cycle that we normally see in Bitcoin. Is it coming to an end? Are there other pressures that are going to prevent this? And another thing, too, is institutional money has really started to get into these. So now that could actually create a bit of a top for us. Bring it further down for them to gather more Bitcoin before it goes back up. The VIX has popped again. I made this prediction a while ago saying that, hey, us staying down around 15, 16 would be nice, but it's unlikely. Volatility is probably going to come back on the menu, and we've seen that already. We saw it pop back up toward this trend line I have. I think we're going to peak up above it and possibly go back up higher. A lot of that does have to do with those potential, the possibility of us going to war. I think that's going to lead into more volatility. Another thing to consider too is, while we are technically quantitative easing, they're not calling it QE, but they are ultimately taking money and somewhat injecting it back into the economy. The Fed is buying back treasury bills, at least the short-term dated ones, There is speculation that they're going to have to move on to longer term ones, and ultimately war would be a reason for them to full on turn on the money printer. So I've made my prediction of sometime between January and probably March, maybe April, we'll see some sort of, we'll see equities pump. We'll see volatility come back. There might be some sort of situation where we see the markets drop anywhere from 5 to 10%. And then we see a reason for them to turn the money printers on to save what's going on. So, you know, there still are certain risks on the table, but as of right now, going into the end of the year, I would say it's kind of quiet, and there's not too much of a reason right now aside from the QE that very likely, you know, there's no reason right now for markets to go higher. There's a lot of people calling for the markets to go to 700, for the S&P 500 to hit 700, but I don't see that happening just yet. There's no reason for it to. Okay, so keep that in mind. As of right now, if this is technically already played out, I think we might chop around just a little bit, but realistically, I think we are probably more bearish on this right now. I think we go to 665, maybe going into the end of the year. And then we do have all these other levels of support and resistance that we could possibly break through. Okay. With that being said, let's take a look over at STAX. Today, overall, SPY has definitely been showing a bit more bearishness, and it makes sense, right? We see the markets relaxing further down. A lot of calls have been sold off. We saw this was very similar to yesterday as well. More bearish than bullish. Our flow scanner for the week overall, we've definitely seen Tesla attack those all-time highs, but it has dropped just a bit from it. You can't expect it to go straight up unless there is news coupled with it. This one's interesting. EFA, we'll take a look at that in a moment. EFA is what? Investment, trusts, mutual funds, miscellaneous, iShares. Okay, so money's flowing into that. Could be a bit of rebalancing for the end of the year, but almost 100 mil in that. That's interesting to see. NVIDIA, more bullish. EEM, definitely bullish. IWM, 20 mil to 15. EWZ, Google looking bearish. Gold, more money flowing into it. More money flowing into silver. We saw platinum make new all-time highs. Gold and silver are headed back up toward that as well. Oracle looking bearish. Broadcom looking about even here. So that's for the week. Let's take a look at just today. That's always important for me to check out. Still bullish on Tesla. SPY, definitely, you see all those puts coming in. SPY looking bearish. Silver is where money's flowing into. Gold down here, not as much. Here's the interesting. We'll take a look at this. MU, which is Micron. We have earnings coming up today, and we definitely see quite a bit of bullishness. This is something that somebody brought up. I know some of you guys use other tools other than what we have in STAX, but while you might not see it in here, because remember, we filter out the stuff that we consider to be noise. There were quite a few in the money calls bought for Micron, and you can understand those are, you know, we filter those out, but they will still be reflected upon in the flow when it comes down to the wave X. So definitely leaning more bullish here, but I will point out there are times where this, because they're so far in the money, it could in a sense create a floor for them. All right, so I think I saw a lot of them were buying $200 calls, so you know that could be creating a floor for them. The other thing, the reason being too, we saw this happen with Lululemon looking for puts, and it ended up going up because Lululemon during their earnings did report that they were their CEO stepping down and they're replacing him. So, but in terms of probability right now, I would say MU looking like you should be leaning more bullish on it. Another thing to do is look at these expirations. Do you see anything with 1219? That is on Friday. What are they aiming for? So aiming below 220. This is for next week, below 220. Some aiming above 235. All right. So even let's just say looking at what's being bought for today, you know, you can see you've got almost 5 mil of puts to 1.3 mil of calls when it comes down to the more significant premiums and out of the money purchases that we see. This one's bought some time though. Next December, next year, 520, 130% move from where we're at. That's pretty ridiculous to think about. With that being said, let's peek over at the chart. I saw a pretty significant dip back in just last month, November. So MU from there, we saw a drop. Saw a 25% drop. Saw it recover to new all-time highs, 36%. And we're down about 14-15% from there. Okay. A lot of analysts are targeting 300 for MU. I mean, I would say earnings-wise, I would expect a beat. I think that's almost pretty much priced in at this point. So probability is more likely to the upside too here. There is a bit of bearishness because of all these, you know, the last 5 days, the last week or so, we've seen just a sell-off. There is a little bit of weekly divergence, bearish divergence on that. We're making new, you know, all-time highs here, but we are seeing on this stochastic that we're coming back down a little. A lot of mixed signals, I will say, in this point. Because again, 4-hour chart says we should be headed back up, that we're slowing down, selling off into this resistance and support. So what, 225 or so has been acting as decent support, at least today. I don't know, you tell me. You guys are watching, what do you think about Micron? You know, my intuition says it's tough to be bearish on this name. In terms of their earnings, I think they do great. I think they beat and they smash those estimates. Question is that already priced in? Because look at from last earnings to now. From last earnings till now, we are up 35%, at some points even close to 62% at those highs. So has it run up enough? Right? Yeah, 4-hour chart says we probably see a solid bounce from here. Real quick, I'm just gonna pull up on my other chart here, or on the side. On the side, I'm pulling up on bar chart just to see what the expected move for today is. The expected move for today is about 7.6%. 7.6% brings up a little bit over 242, 243 maybe. Yeah, 242. A drop would bring us down toward 207. So I find it unlikely we see below 200. I think if it were me getting into a position, I would probably be aiming for about 240 or above. But again, the IV for the ones for this week, they're pretty high, so just be careful with those. All right. Let's see. Nike reports tomorrow. Well, before I get into that, we saw Lennar Homes actually report yesterday. And I was talking to our Discord about this. Um, Sales of homes have plummeted, right? And so that's why we see they missed on their earnings. Revenue's still higher, but they missed on earnings. As a result, we saw Lennar Homes drop about 5% today, as much as 6 or 7. NKE Nike. I was pointing this out. Nike does kind of look like it's got this flag forming right in the middle of it right now too. We have this giant wedge that has formed. So in terms of this falling wedge, probability is probably to the upside. This little bear flag that we see though, there's a possibility we see this breakdown. So it's kind of hard to say right now. If you use consumer sentiment, two sides of it. Consumer sentiment, to some extent, they've said consumer sentiment looks like it's already bottomed. However, and we are headed into, holidays. People are starting to buy more. People are continuing to get ready for these holidays, gift giving and all that. While it's not going to be fully reflected, just because, again, Christmas isn't until next week, do we start to see some of that being reflected in, in their bottom line? The thing about Nike though is they are very heavily, they sell clothing for all sports and shoes for all sports, but their primary moneymaker is running. And I don't know if you guys notice out there, but I'm noticing fewer and fewer people wearing Nikes out. I'm seeing a lot more of those ON, right? On is a very popular shoe brand. I'm seeing a lot more of the Hoka brand out. So it's looking like Nike is possibly losing some of that market share. Basketball, obviously, that's, I play a lot of basketball and that's what I focus on. It's actually a fairly small portion of what Nike has. There's this possibility and this rumor out there going on about how Stephen Curry leaving Under Armour possibly could be signing with Nike. He's kind of doing a shoe contract free agency right now, and there is speculation that he's going to sign with Nike. And when he does retire, it's supposed to be like a 5-year contract for like 700 mil. And when he does retire in the next few years, they're going to pivot into golf for him. Which I think is actually a fairly decent strategy if that is the direction that they're going. But until that news hits, I actually would say there's a risk to the downside here that I would say probably come back down one more time before we start to test this downward trend line. If we see solid earnings, which again, they tend to do pretty well on it, we probably could see this attack this upper, this downward trend line. And if it does have really good earnings, we maybe see it start to pop up and break up above. But I think that's all stuff that's 2026 and on. I don't know if it's necessarily if we do see a move today, tomorrow after earnings, I think maybe $70 is the high end. Lower end maybe around 60. I think we see a $5 move to the up or the downside. What else do I have? FedEx. FedEx is looking pretty strong here, realistically. Let me see real quick because of overnight trading that I drew it this way. No? Okay. I don't know why that trend line was so far off. Okay. FedEx. This is a strong move to the upside. It's just in this little channel right now. I will say PE ratio being at a 16.5, that's screaming buy. Revenue could be back. You know, there's no guarantee of a beat or a miss on this one. But yeah, people getting their packages. I'm expecting it. So I would say to the upside, we probably see right under 300. If we see a drop, 262 is where I would look for. Maybe what? Yeah, 256 is a possibility. Let's see, upward maybe 6%, downward maybe, yeah, maybe around there. All right, let's look at coin. I think we see lower for coin. This doesn't look the prettiest right now. I think we come back down to 232, fill this gap, maybe come back up. But I don't know. I think there's a possibility we could see back to 200. This has more to do with the Japan carry trade. Yes, Coinbase makes their money off of the fees that they charge for crypto. But as of right now, if the Japan carry trade does lead into Bitcoin dropping, I think we see Coinbase come back to test 230 and then fill the gap down to 212, 213 or so. Yeah, Coinbase was, I mean, what does the app update really do? Like, is it really something that's going to cause them as a stock to, you know, for investors to say, okay, well, you're going to make more money, you guys are, you know, you're going to create and capture more of the market share. What is it in terms of the money that this app update does? Yeah, sure, their app works better, but does it do anything that makes investors say we got to put more money into this company? I don't necessarily see that just yet. All right. We kind of are at a support from where we are, but it's a fairly weak one. We just bounced off of it once. So, yeah, we could see a little higher, but I think right now, probability is more so to the downside. No. Before I go into that, let's just show you what STAX has to say. Let's just peek at it. Coinbase. I mean, those are in the money. We got some big money. Oh, this one's pretty big. 240 and above. Big money spent 1.4 mil. This one's for 2027. 2.5K per contract. So long term, still fairly bullish on Coinbase, but I think right now, just because of the risk with the Japan carry trade, makes me want to lean more bearish. And that's what WaveX is showing here too. WaveX says there's some more downside to come. All right. Nike, real quick. Yeah, Nike looking more bearish right now. Below 64 for Friday. Yeah, let me screenshot some of these for our chat. MU beat by 25%. Are they up? They're up after hours. Yeah, I mean, the demand was all there. That's the thing, right? The demand for semiconductors is at all-time highs with all this AI stuff going on. Like I said, up toward 240. It bounced off of it so far. We'll see if it continues. Yeah, the question wasn't whether or not they were going to beat. The question is how much were they going to beat by, right? So, and something that's been happening with a lot of these is we see a big move overnight, and then most of those gains might be given up by the time we open. So up about 6%. We said 7.5% was the expected move today. So we'll see how close to that it gets. Yeah, 243 or so is what we said. Okay. I just posted this in our Discord. I'll read it out to you guys. So, our market's going to go up. Markets have continued to ride off the back of the AI trade. All right. A very large percentage of the gains that we've seen this year are based upon the AI trade and are piggybacking off the Magnificent Seven. The top percentage of the market is being carried, and I think they said like 50 or 60% of the gains that we've seen this year are due to money flowing into that AI trade. So there's so much banking on this AI being the reason why we move up. But right now, there's a lot of these concerns of, the markets are near all-time highs. We just cut rates, and certain worries about, where we stand in terms of our national debt. Right now, I've talked about the Japan carry trade is a reason for why the markets might go down and why Bitcoin might go down. The Fed is stuck in a very tough spot where they basically have said that we are essentially in stagflation. He hasn't said it directly, but if you look underneath and between the lines of what Jerome Powell is saying, we have to fight the unemployment issue, but we also have inflation that will come roaring back if we cut too fast. That's also bearish right now because we're already near the top. If we cut again, yes, asset prices will rise because monetary policy becomes easier, but inflation will go up so high eventually that they will have to raise those interest rates to battle that because the people aren't going to be happy with it. Geopolitical concerns with Venezuela. Initially, if we do announce war, probably will be bearish for a little bit before we go back up. as money flows back into the economy to go fight the war. There still is concerns with the tariff ruling with the Supreme Court. If they do say that we have, we got to pay back all the tariff money that was unconstitutional, whatever, that could lead into a big mess. And what else? Oh, I had something that I was just about to say, but can't think of it now. I'll come back to that. But there's also this other part of it where there's a saying that markets climb a wall of worry. When there are these types of concerns, sometimes the markets, continue to step their way on up. Okay, so we always have this back and forth, bears versus bulls. As of right now, I think the bears have enough of a case to say, hey, like, we've run up too high, too fast. Another standard pullback would be necessary at this point. And ultimately, it doesn't mean we can't make new all-time highs in 2026, but I think we're at that point where, some profits need to be taken. A little bit of a pullback is necessary before we move on further. Well, Macron tapped on that 242 that I said. We'll see how much of this holds up overnight. Does it continue to bounce around and go higher, or does it come back down, maybe back toward 230 or so? STAX, we're still seeing some puts being taken out. Big money is, like I said, they're being cautious with where things are, especially near these all-time highs. Starting to, ooh, that's a new one. Seeing the expiration for the end of January next year, but puts for 655. I think we're headed down. I think we're headed down. 650, 665 was my first target. This one's saying 640. A lot of block trades though, so. Oh, a very interesting one. Yesterday we saw HUT come in. Extremely unusual purchases. This was all yesterday, or not yesterday. Where we go? There we go. Yeah. Yesterday, December 16th, we saw all these calls come in for the end of this week, $43 and $51. You go and peek over at what ended up happening. They sign a $7 billion lease for an AI data center. We saw a pop overnight, 25% overnight. Overall today, we saw a total of 9% return. But, the reason that we use STAX and the reason that we like to check off for that unusual flow, Simple things like that. They poured a bunch of money in it for a very short term period of time for extremely far out of the money contracts. Again, let me show you here. Right, they expected anywhere from a 16-17% up to 40% move in a matter of 3 to 4 days. Right, 3 days. And what do you see? Yeah, it paid out. So that's what unusual options, learn to filter for it. Unusual options, looking for what's being bought. It also doesn't hurt to check out what's being sold, but generally what our theory behind and what we use this flow for is trying to sniff out what they're doing behind closed doors. What do they happen to know that can help us get into a strong position and profit off of the knowledge that something's about to happen. Some sort of news is about to be announced that only the people in that deal happen to know right now. But you can understand there's always going to be people that do their best to try to profit off of that knowledge. A heads up as well, next week Wednesday is Christmas Eve. The week after is New Year's Eve. I will not be doing YouTube Live on those days, but I will be back on in January. If you guys do want to, have a conversation and join STAX or our ICC Discord, you can use the code eRoo loves STAX. It's in the description box below. All the links are in there as well. You can go ahead and go on to investorcentralclub.com/memberships. Check us out, 20% off. So again, you can try us out. You get access to the Discord platform. Keep in mind too, I only show you a few of these because it looks a little better on our when we go live. But we've got a lot of different bits of data for you. So we got our options flow, we've got equity flow, so you can see what is actually being bought in terms of the stock. We have our flow scanner tool, our WaveX market tool. We also, you can see the market events, so what's coming up during the week, coming up during the month. We also have a politician tracker and inside tracker. So you can see what our politicians are buying and selling, and you can also see what the insiders at any of these companies are buying and selling as well. If you have any questions, you guys, and if you're not already in our platform, you can always go ahead and email us, help@investorcentralclub.com. I'm behind that email, so if you guys do message us over there, I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. We are starting to see more and more people use our platform, not only in other Discords, but there are a couple of different different YouTubers that are now testing stuff out. The thing that we're probably most known for is our STAX AI filter, which I got to get this video finished up for you guys. But we do a back testing every single month. It is up on our YouTube. It boasts if we use 15% as the threshold for a win, we have about like an 85% win rate on that. If you use 0 as a threshold, anything that goes above 0, our threshold, our win rate is like 92%. All right. But the crazy thing about it is over the course of 2 years, a little over 2 years, we've had about 500 different callouts from STAX AI. And on average, it gives a return of almost 300%. All right. So, obviously not everything's going to be a winner, but at the end of the day, the high hit rate with the average returns, I find it hard to believe that if you're, using STAX AI and managing your risk, that your portfolio would be looking red. Another thing to also consider is if you go look in my back testing, I always do this. If they are losers, I've also used the statistic where I zero them out. So basically, if they end up losing, they don't hit 15% or higher, I count that as a 100% loss, right? Minus 99.9%. And even with that statistic, our average returns are in like 220 or 250%. I have to double check that number. But I'm in the process of in the process of putting together the last back testing for the month of November. Keep in mind, I've been doing this manually this entire time, so there's a lot of prints to go through. Next year in 2026, Max, one of our other analysts, has helped put together a tool that will help us not only analyze these prints, but also visualize what's going on so that we can get you guys additional information and more data as to what's going on. But for example, like right now, we see people get the Ethereum ETHA, the ETF here. We're seeing them getting into some strikes for 26 and 31 for the middle of next year. And so that just makes me think Ethereum might see a solid run next year. In the next 6 months. That's what this is saying. All right. All right. That's all I really had for you today. Let's just peek back over at Micron, see where it's at. All right, guess we'll see where this opens up tomorrow. You guys, jumped into some calls. Hope to see those profits in our Discord in the club profits section. And yeah, DK, our community, I love the STAX community. I've been in ICC for over 5 years now, but ultimately it's a group of people that just want to learn and want to help each other out. The community is a great place to learn and refine your skills as a trader, and the STAX tool that we've developed, it's still, we're not done developing it. We still got stuff on deck for you guys. Next year is going to be a really great year where we have our TraderLink acquisition. We're going to start implementing some of those tools and additional things that are going to be added to that platform for you guys to use. Even more as well, we're going to have more education and things like that to help you guys maximize your ability to use it too. Yeah. I mean, look at our chat. Everybody says, STAX and ICC were a great place, a great community. Give us a chance. Come check us out. If you have questions, you can always email me. Let me know. More than happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. YouTube, I won't see you guys till the new year. Everybody else that's ready in STAX and in Discord, I'll see you guys in the chat over there. I will do one more live tomorrow for the Discord. Next week I am on vacation going into the new year, so we'll pick and choose if there are opportunities. I may still jump on here and there, but I'm just not going to be as consistent as I have been recently. Gonna try to get the baby boy some extra time with his grandparents. So if you're in the Bay Area, let me know. Either I will see you at the holiday party, or some of you guys I'll probably see outside of it as well. All right. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Always happy to do this for you guys. See you guys in the next one. Happy New Year.